The great ship came down from the sky like a falling star. It was beautiful in a way that made humans feel small. The vessel was called the Eternal Grace, and it belonged to the Empire. Its surface was smooth like water, and it glowed with soft blue light. People on Earth's orbital station gathered at the windows to watch it approach. Stood away from the crowd. He was 34 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. He wore the gray uniform of a security officer. His job was simple: keep the alien visitors safe, be polite, stay invisible. The delegation was important. Earth had only joined the Galactic Concord 5 years ago. Humanity was still new to this game of empires and alliances. They needed friends among the stars. The Empire controlled 12 star systems. Their approval could change everything for Earth. Watched the ship dock with the station. He felt nothing. Other officers around him whispered with excitement. They talked about the aliens, their technology, their beauty, stayed quiet. He checked his weapon. He reviewed the security protocols on his tablet. He did his job. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. They came out slowly, the people. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Their eyes were large and bright, like captured pieces of starlight. They moved with grace that made humans look clumsy. And then she appeared. Princess Lyrie of the Empire stepped onto the station floor. She was different from the others. Her glow was brighter. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal down her back. She wore robes of deep purple that shifted colors when she moved. She looked around the station with curiosity in her ancient eyes. She was, by any standard of any species, beautiful. The human delegation rushed forward to greet her. Ambassador Park bowed low and spoke words of welcome. Other officials smiled and nodded. Everyone wanted to be seen. Everyone wanted to be remembered by the princess. Everyone except. He stood at his post near the wall. His face showed nothing. When the princess's eyes swept across the room, they passed over him like he was part of the furniture. That was exactly what he wanted. The first day was full of ceremonies. There were speeches and gifts and formal dinners. Worked his shifts and then returned to his small room. He ate alone. He did not attend the celebration banquet that night. His friend found him in the mess hall the next morning. "You missed quite a party," she said, sitting across from him. Was the same age as they had trained together years ago. She had bright eyes and a quick smile. The princess asked about human dancing. "Can you imagine? One of our guys tried to teach her." "Good for him," said. He continued eating his rice. Frowned. "You could at least pretend to be interested. This is historic. First time a royal has visited Earth's territory." "I know what it is." "Then why do you act like you don't care?" Looked up at her. For a moment something dark moved behind his eyes, then it was gone. "I care about doing my job, that's enough." Opened her mouth to argue, but then her communicator buzzed. She checked it and sighed. "Duty calls. But we're going to talk about this later. You've been like this for years. It's not healthy." She left, finished his meal in silence. The days that followed fell into a pattern. The delegation toured the station. They met with human scientists and artists. They asked questions about Earth's history and culture. Princess Lyrie was at the center of everything. She smiled and nodded and said kind things that made humans feel special. Watched from the edges. He was always there doing his duty but never truly present. When there were social events, he found reasons to be elsewhere. When conversations happened, he gave short answers and moved away. He did not notice that the princess had started watching him too. It was Lady who first mentioned it. She was the princess's chief attendant, an older woman with stern eyes. "There is a human officer," Lady said one evening. "The one called, he behaves strangely." Princess Lyrie was sitting by her window, looking out at the stars. "Strange how?" "He avoids us, not with fear or disgust, with intention. He removes himself from every situation where he might have to speak with us beyond basic duty." Lyrie turned slightly. Perhaps he is shy. I have seen shy humans. They still want to be near us. They still look with wonder. This one looks with nothing. It is like we are invisible to him. The princess considered this. In her long life she had met thousands of species. Most of them wanted something from the empire: power, trade, protection. They smiled and flattered and competed for attention. It was exhausting and predictable. But a human who wanted nothing, who actively avoided the opportunity that others would kill for. That was interesting. Find out more about him, Larry said. His background, his history. Is that wise, Your Highness? He is just a minor officer. Perhaps, but I have learned that the most interesting truths hide in the most ordinary people. The next day, Princess Lyrie changed her security detail request. She asked specifically for officer to be assigned to her personal guard. The request caused confusion. Why would a princess want a specific human guard? But no one argued. You did not argue with royalty. When received the order, his face remained calm. But inside, something cold settled in his chest. He had worked so hard to stay invisible. Now the princess herself had pulled him into the light. He reported for duty outside her quarters that evening. The door opened and there she was. Up close, her glow was almost painful to look at. She smiled at him, and it was the kind of smile that had started wars on other worlds. "Officer," she said, "I have heard you are the best at your job." "I do my duty, Your Highness." So formal. She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle. "I hope we will become friends during my visit." His expression did not change. "I am here for your protection, Your Highness, nothing more." Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, amusement, he could not tell. "We shall see," she said softly. "We shall see." She turned and walked back into her quarters. The door closed between them. Stood at his post and stared at the wall. His heart was beating faster than it should, not from attraction, not from fear. From something older, something darker. The Empire had existed for 10,000 years. They had watched countless species rise and fall. They had sat on the Galactic Council when decisions were made about who deserved help and who did not. 20 years ago, they had made such a decision about Earth. And remembered. He remembered everything. Princess Lyrie was not used to being ignored. In her 300 years of life, she had been worshipped, feared, loved, and hated. But ignored. Never. Yet here was this human, standing outside her door every day, and he looked at her like she was a piece of furniture. It fascinated her. It also annoyed her. She began testing him. Small things at first. She would ask him questions about the station. "What is that section for?" she would ask, pointing at a distant module. He would answer in 3 words or less. "Engineering Bay," nothing more. She tried asking about himself. "Where are you from, officer?" "Korea, Earth." "Do you have family?" A pause, just a tiny pause that most people would miss. "No, Your Highness." "No parents, no siblings?" "No." His voice was flat, empty, like he was reading from a script. Lyrie had met soldiers before, warriors who had lost everything. They had more emotion in their voices than this man. She reported her findings to Lady each evening. "He is like stone," Lyrie said, packing her quarters. "I cannot reach him." "Perhaps there is nothing to reach," Lady suggested. "Some beings are simply hollow." "No, I saw something in his eyes once, just for a moment. There is fire in him somewhere. He has simply buried it very deep." "Why does this matter to you, Highness? He is one human among billions." Lyrie stopped packing. She looked out at the stars. "Because I am tired of performances. Everyone I meet shows me what they think I want to see. This human shows me nothing. That means whatever he is hiding is real." She decided to try a different approach. The next day, she invited to accompany her on a tour of Earth's cultural exhibits. The station had a whole section dedicated to human art and history. She walked slowly through the displays, asking him to explain things. "This painting," she said, stopping before a large canvas. It showed mountains and a river and tiny human figures working in fields. "What does it mean?" Looked at it for a long moment. "It is a landscape from old Korea, farmers working their land." "Is it beautiful to you?" "It is well made." Larry sighed. "I am not asking about technique, officer. I am asking if it moves you, if it makes you feel something." Turned to look at her. His dark eyes met her glowing ones. "With respect, Your Highness, my feelings are not part of my duties." "I am making them part of your duties. I am ordering you to tell me what you feel." A muscle twitched in his jaw. For a second, Larry thought she had finally broken through, but then his face went smooth again. "I feel that it represents a simpler time, before humans knew what waited for them in the stars." It was an answer, but it told her nothing. Or maybe it told her everything, and she was not smart enough to hear it. They continued walking. Larry found herself talking more than usual, trying to fill the silence he created. She told him about art, about the crystal sculptures that took centuries to grow, about the songs that could only be sung by beings who lived for 1,000 years. He listened, he nodded, he said nothing. At the end of the tour, she was exhausted. Talking to him was like throwing stones into a bottomless well. They just fell and never made a sound. "Thank you for your time, officer," she said stiffly. "I was doing my duty, Your Highness." She wanted to scream. Instead, she smiled and walked away. That night found sitting alone in the observation deck. It was late, and the deck was empty. Earth glowed blue and white below them, peaceful and beautiful. "I heard you spent the day with the princess," said, sitting beside him. "I was assigned to her detail." "She seems to like you." Said nothing. Turned to look at him. In the dim light she could see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. "Talk to me. What is going on with you?" "Nothing is going on." "You're lying. We've known each other for 15 years. I can tell when you're lying." He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Do you know why I became a security officer?" "You said you wanted to protect people." "I lied." He looked at her and there was something old in his eyes, something broken. "I became a security officer because I wanted to be close to them. The aliens, the delegates, the representatives of the great galactic concord." "Why?" "To remind myself what they are." Frowned. "What are they?" Turned back to the window. He did not answer. Reached out and touched his arm. "Whatever happened to you, whatever you're carrying, you don't have to carry it alone." "Yes," he said quietly, "I do." He stood up and left. Watched him go, her heart heavy with worry. The next few days were torture for everyone. Princess Lyrie kept finding excuses to be near. She asked for him specifically for every outing. She engaged him in conversations he did not want to have. She studied his face for any crack in his armor. He gave her nothing. Other humans noticed the princess's interest. Some were jealous, some were curious. Ambassador Park called into his office. "Officer," the ambassador said carefully, "the princess seems fond of you." "I have done nothing to encourage it, sir." "I'm not accusing you of anything, but I need you to understand how important this visit is. If the princess wants to talk to you, you talk to her. If she wants to be your friend, you become her friend. Earth's future may depend on it." His hands curled into fists at his sides. "With respect, sir, I am a security officer, not an entertainer." "You are whatever Earth needs you to be." The ambassador's voice was hard, dismissed. Left the office with cold anger in his chest. "Earth needs you to be." The words echoed in his head. Earth had needed things before. 20 years ago, Earth had needed help. Earth had begged for it. The Galactic Concord had said no. That evening, Princess Lyrie found him on the observation deck. It was becoming their unspoken meeting place, though hated that. "You avoid me," she said without greeting. She stood beside him, looking at Earth below. "Why?" I do not avoid you, Your Highness. I maintain appropriate boundaries. You maintain walls. She turned to face him. In the starlight, her glow was softer, almost gentle. I am trying to understand your species, officer. How can I do that if you refuse to let me see? Something shifted in his chest, a crack in the dam he had built so carefully. Some things, he said quietly, are better left unseen. She stared at him. For the first time she saw it. The Fire Lady had doubted existed. It was there in his eyes, not anger, not hatred. Pain. Ancient, terrible pain. What happened to you? She whispered. Looked at her for a long moment. His jaw was tight. His hands were shaking slightly. Then he turned and walked away. Officer, she called after him. He did not stop. He did not look back. Princess Lyrie stood alone on the observation deck, watching Earth spin slowly below her. For the first time in centuries, she felt truly confused. This human was a mystery wrapped in silence. And she was determined to solve him. Lady, she said into her communicator, I need everything. Every record, every file, every piece of information about Officer. I want to know who he is. I want to know what made him this way. It will be done, Highness. Lyrie closed her eyes. She did not know why this mattered so much. She did not know why one human's silence felt louder than all the noise of the galaxy. But she would find out. Whatever the cost. Lady worked through the night. She used access codes to reach into the Galactic Concord's databases. She searched human records, military files, and news archives from 20 years past. By morning, she had assembled a file that made her ancient heart feel cold. She brought it to Princess Lyrie at dawn. I found what you asked for, Highness, Lady said. Her voice was different, quieter. But I must warn you, it is not pleasant. Lyrie took the data tablet. Nothing about this human has been pleasant. Show me. Lady activated the display. Images appeared. Maps, photographs, news reports. And at the center of it all, a single word that Lyrie had hoped never to see again. 20 years ago, Lady began, a species called the conducted raids on Earth. They were a minor power. Scavengers, really. They traveled between worlds looking for biological specimens to study and sell. Lyrie nodded slowly. She remembered the ugly creatures with too many limbs and no conscience. They had been a problem for the Conquered for centuries. Earth at that time had no space travel, Lady continued. They were what the Conquered called a pre-contact civilization, primitive, isolated, unaware of the galaxy around them. I know this history. Then you know what happened next. Lady touched the display. A map of Earth appeared with a small region highlighted. They targeted a rural area in Korea. They took over 100 humans in a single night. Men, women, children. They loaded them onto their ships and left. The display changed to show photographs from the aftermath. Burned homes, empty streets, people crying over the belongings of loved ones who would never return. Officer was 14 years old, Lady said. He lived in a small village in that region. When they came, they took his mother and his younger sister. She was only 9. Lyrie felt something twist inside her chest. And he survived. The records say he hid in a collapsed storage cellar for 3 days. He was too afraid to come out. When rescue workers finally found him, he had not eaten or slept. He simply sat in the darkness, waiting. The princess closed her eyes. She could imagine it. A boy in the dark, listening to the screams above him, knowing his mother and sister were being taken, knowing he could do nothing. What happened to the captives? Lyrie asked, though she feared the answer. Lady hesitated. They were known for their experiments. They studied alien biology. They tested new drugs and technologies on living subjects. The process was, she paused, none of the Earth captives survived. Their bodies were found years later on an abandoned station. Lyrie's glow flickered. It was a sign of deep emotion among her people. The Conquered, what did they do? This was the part Lady had dreaded. Nothing, Highness. Nothing. Earth was pre-contact. They had no representative in the conquered, no voice, no rights. When the incident was reported, the council debated for weeks. Some members argued for intervention. Others said it would set a dangerous precedent. What precedent? Protecting species that had not earned their place among the stars. Lady's voice was bitter. There were conquered members. Earth was not. In the end, the council voted against action. Lyrie stood very still. Who voted against? Lady pulled up another record. A list of names appeared on the display. Council members from 20 years ago. And near the top of that list was a name that made Lyrie feel sick. Emperor of the Empire, her grandfather. He voted against helping them, Lyrie whispered. My grandfather. He gave a speech, Lady said quietly. I have the recording if you wish to hear it. Lyrie did not want to hear it, but she needed to. She nodded. Her grandfather's voice filled the room. It was smooth and confident, the voice of a being who had ruled for 1,000 years. The humans are pre-industrial livestock, he said. They cannot even leave their own planet. Why should the conquered waste resources protecting those who cannot protect themselves? Nature must take its course. The weak are consumed. The strong survive. This is the way of the galaxy. The recording ended. Lyrie sat down heavily. Her legs would not hold her. She stared at the display, seeing nothing. Highness, Lady stepped closer. Are you well? He called them livestock. Lyrie's voice was empty. My grandfather, my family, we decided that those people did not deserve to live. The conquered decided, not just us. We had power. We could have changed the vote. We chose not to. Lyrie looked up at her attendant. And now I understand why Officer looks at me with dead eyes. When he sees me, he sees the empire that let his mother and sister die. Lady did not argue. There was nothing to say. What happened to the? Lyrie asked after a long silence. They went extinct about 10 years ago. A plague swept through their population. Something they created in their laboratories escaped and killed them all. Most of the galaxy considered it justice. And Earth. They developed space travel 5 years later. They found the conquered. They applied for membership. Lady paused. They were rejected twice before being accepted. Some council members still considered them too primitive. Lyrie laughed. It was not a happy sound. Primitive. A species that taught itself to fly to the stars in 5 years. A species that joined the civilization that abandoned them. That takes more strength than any conquered race has ever shown. She stood up and walked to the window. Earth hung in the darkness, blue and green and beautiful. Somewhere down there, a 14-year-old boy had crawled out of a hole in the ground and found his whole world destroyed. And the galaxy had told him it was his fault for being weak. I need to speak with him, Lyrie said. I need to. I do not know, apologize. How do you apologize for something like this? Perhaps you cannot, Lady said gently. Perhaps some wounds are too deep. Then what do I do? That is not for me to say, Highness, but I will tell you this. The old woman moved to stand beside her princess. That boy became a man who serves on a station full of the people who abandoned him. He does his duty every day. He does not complain. He does not seek revenge. He simply endures. That sounds like torture. Perhaps it is, or perhaps it is something else. Lady looked at Earth. Perhaps it is the only way he knows how to survive. Lyrie thought about that. She thought about his empty eyes, his short answers, his careful walls. He was not cold because he felt nothing. He was cold because he felt everything. And if he let himself feel it, even for a moment, it would destroy him. I have been cruel, Lyrie whispered, chasing him, demanding his attention, treating him like a puzzle to solve. I did not know. You could not have known. I should have asked, I should have listened. Lyrie pressed her hand against the window. Instead, I pushed, like every other alien he has ever met, demanding, taking, never giving. She turned away from the window. Her face was set with determination. "I will find him tonight, and I will listen. Whatever he wants to say, whatever he needs me to hear, I will listen." "Lady Bode, shall I arrange a meeting?" "No," Larry walked toward the door. "I know where he will be." The observation deck, their unspoken place of quiet. She would go there, she would wait. And this time she would not ask questions. She would give him the silence he needed. And if he wanted to fill it, she would let him. The station's memorial garden was a small space near the lower decks. Most people did not know it existed. It was meant for quiet, for remembering, for grief. Went there every year on the same night, the anniversary of the taking. He had set up a small holographic display on one of the benches. Two faces glowed in the air. His mother, smiling with her whole face the way she always did, and his little sister with her missing front tooth and messy hair. The photos were old, recovered from damaged files years after the left. They were all he had left of them. He sat in front of the display and did not move. He did not cry. He had stopped crying many years ago. Now he just sat and remembered. His mother's voice singing him to sleep. His laugh when he tickled her. The smell of food cooking in their small house. Simple things, beautiful things. Gone things. He did not hear the footsteps behind him, but he felt the change in the air, the slight glow that came with presence. "You found me," he said without turning. Princess Lyrie stopped a few steps away. "I was not looking for you, not exactly." "Then why are you here?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she walked around the bench and sat down beside him, not close, but present. "I read the reports," she said softly. His jaw tightened. "Which reports?" "All of them, the incursion, the council vote, she paused, "the aftermath." He said nothing. His eyes stayed on the holographic faces of his family. "I am sorry," Larry said, "for what was done to your people." "Are you?" His voice was flat, dangerous. "The Empire was part of the conquered then. Your grandfather sat on the council. He voted against intervention." Larry flinched. She had hoped he did not know the details, but of course he did. He had probably memorized every name on that voting record. "I heard his speech," she admitted. "He called your people livestock. Pre-industrial livestock." Hands curled into fists. Those were his exact words. I have heard the recording many times. "Why?" Larry asked. "Why would you listen to that?" "To remember." He finally turned to look at her. His eyes were dark pools of something terrible. "To never forget what the civilized galaxy thinks of us." Larry held his gaze. It was hard. His pain was like a physical force pressing against her. "You want to know why I keep away, Princess?" His voice cracked slightly. The first real emotion she had ever heard from him. "You want to understand why I cannot smile and bow and play the grateful human?" "Yes," she whispered, "I want to understand." He stood up abruptly. He walked to the wall and pressed his hand against it. His shoulders were tight with tension. "When they came," he said, "I was 14 years old. I was playing in the storage cellar behind our house, hiding from my sister. It was a game we played." Larry did not move. She barely breathed. "I heard the sounds, the screaming, the strange engines. I was too scared to go up. I just stayed in the dark and listened." His voice was steady, but something was breaking underneath. "I heard my mother calling my name, looking for me, and then I heard her scream, and then I heard nothing." Tears were running down Larry's face. She did not wipe them away. "I stayed in that cellar for 3 days. I could hear things moving above me. Animals. Maybe people looking for survivors. I did not care. I just waited. For what, I did not know." He turned around. His face was a mask of controlled agony. "When they found me, I had lost my voice. I did not speak for 6 months. The doctors said it was trauma. They gave me therapy and medicine and kind words." He laughed bitterly. "None of it helped." "What helped?" Larry asked quietly. "Hate." The word dropped like a stone. "I learned about the conquered. I learned about the vote. I learned that my mother and sister died because a room full of aliens decided they were not worth saving, and I hated them, all of them, every species that had turned away. He walked toward her slowly, his eyes never left hers. Every time I look at you, Princess, I see them. I see the council members in their fine robes talking about natural selection. I see your grandfather calling my mother livestock. I see the civilized galaxy watching us scream and doing nothing. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat of his anger. Humanity joined your conquered because we had no choice. We smile at your banquets because we must. We praise your culture because it keeps us alive. His voice dropped to a whisper. But you want to know what we really are. Lyrie could not speak. Her voice was trapped in her throat. We are the survivors you abandoned. He leaned closer, and his whisper carried the weight of 1,000 graves. And we remember everything. Silence filled the garden. The holographic faces of his family glowed softly behind them. Lyrie tried to find words, any words, but nothing came. What could she say? What apology could cover 20 years of grief? What comfort could heal a wound that had never stopped bleeding? She understood now, all of it. His cold eyes were not cold at all. They were frozen, frozen to keep the fire inside from consuming him. His short answers were not rudeness. They were survival. Every word he spoke to her was a victory against the rage that wanted to burst out. And his distance, his walls, they were not meant to keep her out. They were meant to keep him in. Because if he let himself see her as a person, if he let himself feel anything but hate, then he would have to face what had been taken from him. And that pain was too great to bear. Lyrie's voice trembled. I do not have words. There are no words for this. No, agreed, there are not. He walked back to the bench and sat down. He looked at his mother's face, at Smile. My sister wanted to see the stars, he said softly. She used to sit outside at night and point at them. She asked me which ones had planets, which ones had people. I made up stories for her. I told her that the stars were full of kind beings who would be our friends someday. His voice broke. She believed me. Lyrie sat down beside him again. This time she sat closer. I cannot undo what was done, she said, but I can promise you this. I will make sure it is known, the truth, all of it. I will bring it before the imperial court. I will demand acknowledgement. Looked at her with exhausted eyes. Why would you do that? It will shame your family. My family should be shamed. Her voice was steady now, strong, and because I finally understand something. What? You kept away not from hatred, but from grief. She looked at the holographic faces. If you let yourself see us as people, you would have to feel what was taken from you, and that pain. She did not finish. She did not need to. Stared at her for a long time. His walls were cracking. She could see it happening. The frozen surface was melting, and underneath was a sea of sorrow. I have carried this for 20 years, he said. Every day, every moment, it never gets lighter. I know, Lyrie said, but perhaps you do not have to carry it alone. He laughed. It was a broken sound, half sob and half something else. You sound like your friend, the one with the bright eyes. She has been trying to reach me for years. I never let her in. Perhaps you should. Looked back at his family's faces. The hologram flickered slightly. Perhaps, he said quietly. They sat together in the silence of the memorial garden. Above them, the stars burned with cold, distant light. But here, in this small space, something warm was beginning to grow. Princess Lyrie did not sleep that night. She lay in her quarters and stared at the ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face. The terrible emptiness that was not empty at all. The grief that had become his entire existence. She thought about her grandfather. Emperor had died 50 years ago, celebrated as a wise and just ruler. Statues of him stood in cities across 12 systems. Children learned songs about his greatness. and he had called innocent people livestock. By morning, Lyrie had made a decision. She called Lady to her quarters. "I need to send a message to the Imperial Court," she said. "Official channels, high priority." Lady bowed. "What shall the message say, Highness?" "That I have learned of a great injustice done in my family's name. That I demand a formal investigation into the incident and the Concord's response. That the Empire must acknowledge its role in the suffering of Earth." The old attendant's face went pale. "Highness, such a message would cause great trouble. The current emperor, your father, would be furious." "Let him be furious. This is right." "Your position at court." "I do not care about my position." Lyrie stood tall. Her glow brightened with determination. "For 300 years I have played the role of princess, smiling, nodding, being decorative and pleasant. I am tired of it." She walked to the window and looked at Earth. "That man down there has carried pain for 20 years because no one would listen, because no one cared. I will not be another person who turns away." Lady was quiet for a long moment. Then she bowed deeply. "I will send the message, Highness, and I will stand with you when the consequences come." Lyrie smiled sadly. "Thank you, old friend." Over the next few days, Lyrie changed. The other members of the delegation noticed. She was quieter, more thoughtful. She spent less time at formal events and more time reading human history, human literature, human music. She was trying to understand, really understand. And she continued meeting on the observation deck, every evening without fail. They did not always talk. Sometimes they just sat in silence watching the stars, but the silence was different now. It was not cold or empty, it was peaceful. One evening brought her something. "This is human music," he said, offering her a small device. "From Korea, old songs my mother used to sing." Lyrie took it carefully. "You are sharing this with me. You asked once about what moves me, what I feel." He looked away. "This is the only honest answer I can give." She listened to the songs that night. They were simple melodies with words she did not fully understand, but she understood the emotion in them. Love, loss, the ache of memory, the hope for tomorrow. She cried for the second time since coming to Earth. A week before the delegation was scheduled to leave, Ambassador Park received a message from the Imperial Court had received Princess Lyrie's communication. They were not happy. "The princess has caused a diplomatic incident," Park told his staff. "The Emperor is demanding she return home immediately." Word spread quickly through the station. Humans whispered about what the princess had done. Some were confused. Some were angry that she had stirred up trouble, but some understood. Found in the mess hall. "Did you hear?" she asked, sitting across from him. "I heard. She's going to be in serious trouble, all because she spoke up about what happened to us." Studied his face. "What did you say to her?" Looked at his hands. "I told her the truth." "The truth?" "About my family, about how I feel when I see them, the aliens, the conquered." He paused. "I told her we remember everything." His eyes widened, and she, felt guilty. She felt something. His voice was soft, different than before, less hollow. "I did not expect that." "Do you still hate her?" He was quiet for a long time. "I do not know what I feel anymore." She is the first one who listened. The first one who did not try to explain or excuse or minimize. She just listened. "That's something." "It is something." He almost smiled, almost. On the day before departure, Princess Lyrie requested a final meeting with. They met one last time on the observation deck. Earth glowed below them, beautiful and wounded and alive. "My father is very angry," Lyrie said. "He says I have embarrassed the Empire." "I am sorry." "Do not be." She smiled at him, and it was the most real smile she had ever given. "I am not sorry. For the first time in centuries, I did something that mattered." "Will you be safe?" "I am a princess. They cannot truly punish me, but I will lose influence. Friends at court, perhaps my freedom to travel, she shrugged. It is a small price. Shook his head. It is not small, you are giving up a great deal. And what have you given up? She asked softly. 20 years of your life, 20 years of grief, 20 years of facing the people who abandoned you and saying nothing. She reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were warm. You are the brave one, not me. He looked at her hand on his. He did not pull away. I do not know how to let go, he admitted. The anger, the pain, it has been part of me for so long. Then do not let go, carry it, but perhaps carry something else too. She squeezed his hand gently. Hope, connection, the knowledge that at least one person in the galaxy truly sees you. His eyes were wet. He did not blink, he let the tears come. It was the first time he had cried since his mother's body was found. My sister would have liked you, he said. His voice broke on the words. She always believed the stars were full of kind beings. Larry felt her own tears fall. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps there are more of us than you know. They stood together as the stars turned slowly overhead. Two beings from worlds that had failed each other. Two souls that had found, somehow, a bridge across the darkness. When the ship departed the next day, found watching from the observation deck, the vessel rose like a silver bird and disappeared into the void. Think she'll actually do it? Asked. Bring it to their court, make them acknowledge what happened. Considered, maybe, maybe not. Politics is complicated. Then why let her go thinking she understood you? He watched the point of light that was the ship fade into the distance. Because she wanted to understand, he said quietly. That is more than anyone has offered in 20 years. Stood beside him, she did not speak. She just shared the silence with her friend. After a while, turned away from the window. He looked different somehow. The emptiness in his eyes was still there, but it was not so deep. Something new had taken root alongside the grief. Come on, he said I will buy you dinner, and maybe I will tell you some things I should have said a long time ago. His face lit up with surprise and joy. Really? Really? He almost smiled again. It is time I stopped carrying this alone. They walked away from the observation deck together. Behind them, the stars kept turning. The galaxy kept spinning. Somewhere out there, a princess was fighting for justice. Somewhere down below, a planet full of survivors kept building their future. And on a space station between worlds, a man who had been frozen for 20 years finally began to thaw. The Empire would send formal acknowledgement of the incident 3 months later. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was a beginning. And he kept working. He kept living. He did not forget his mother or his sister or the hole their absence had left in his heart. But sometimes, late at night, he would look up at the stars and remember a princess who had listened. And for the first time in a very long time, he did not feel alone.